Hello, I've just finished another book, Pavlov's Dog and 49 Other Experiments that Revolutionized Psychology by Adam Hart Davis. This is a great book. Now, I love psychology anyway. I studied it. I find it very interesting. Why is it interesting? Well, what this book does is it looks at experiments since I think the first one it looks at was in 1848 and it goes all the way up to 2007. Psychology experiments are funny. They're interesting. They tell you a lot. They have implications for real life. And the first one starts off. Darwin studied worms, and decided that they have a basic level of intelligence. Yeah, whatever. And then you had Pavlov conditioning the dog. You show a dog food, you hear a bell. Eventually, every time the dog hears a bell, it will salivate, even though there's no food. More interestingly, people have done that with humans. A very ethically questionable study, which conditioned fear into babies. A little baby called Albert B. So you take a baby in a hospital, not because it's sick, it's just in the hospital, and you show it a cuddly toy, and the baby's not scared of it. But then every time you show it a cuddly toy, you smack a hammer on a metal bar behind its bed, you make the baby cry. Guess what? The baby becomes afraid. So that's interesting just in terms of understanding where fears come from. And a lot of people have irrational fears. So, that could be useful. But there's loads of cool stuff in this. I mean, there was an experiment done on monkeys, rhesus monkeys, which showed that if you take a monkey away from its mother at birth, guess what? The monkey grows up with problems. They can't interact. Unfortunately, if you give the monkey back to the monkey mother will attack the baby. How many parallels are there between monkey behavior and human behavior? It's got implications for unstable families, neglectful parents, and essentially how they raise messed up children, which isn't good for society. Another really good one was a guy called Festinger, and a famous psychologist, and him and his colleagues, I think this was back in the 50s, they found a cult called I don't know what they're called now. It will come back to me. But there was a lady called Mrs. Beach who claimed to be receiving messages from aliens who told her the world was going to end, and of course all of her followers in the cult would be saved, they'd be taken away by a spaceship. This was meant to happen in 1951. They all gave away their possessions, they gave up their jobs. These people were doctors, professionals, and guess what? When the world didn't end, even though they told all the newspapers, what do you think happened? Do you think the cult ended? No. The cult became even more fervent and they started telling all the newspapers and everyone that they'd been saved because the God of Earth had taken mercy on them. And I think they kind of walked into some kind of Christianity flavoured cult. There's a lot of, end of the world predictions are nothing new. I think Jehovah's Witnesses have predicted the end of the world in 1941, 1970. I even made a list of these. There's been so many end of the world predictions, okay? Why do people stay with the cult, stay with the religion when it's clearly proven itself wrong in a massively humiliating fashion? Because it's called cognitive dissonance. They've invested so much psychological and physical, maybe financial energy into it that pretending it's still true, pretending it's still is correct, is often less painful than saying, oh shit, we got all that wrong, how embarrassing. So that's cognitive dissonance. And here's a list for you. I made a little list. So Catholic Apostolic Church predicted the world would end in 1901. It didn't. Jehovah's Witnesses predicted in 1941 to 1975. And that's interesting because obviously they're still going. So there's cognitive dissonance in effect. 1976, the Brahma Kumaris followers will all be purified and the rest of the world will be killed in a nuclear war or something of that flavour, and every continent on Earth will sink except for India. So that's a cult derived based in Hinduism. So it's not just Christianity. There's been the prediction of the return of the Jewish Messiah a few times. I don't think he got the memo because he hasn't shown up yet. So, but overall, it's a fantastic read. And, there's a lot of useful insights in here. What might be the best way to raise children? What might be the best way to run a democracy? For example, very authoritarian leaders, you follow them, but only because you're scared. As soon as they're out of the picture, forget it. And when you do misbehave, you misbehave badly. There's lots of experiments to show that. Another is Here's one everybody knows. When you're attracted to something, your pupils dilate. But also when you're trying to figure out a problem, your pupils dilate. And as soon as you solve the problem, they shrink back again. I didn't know that. I thought that was very interesting. There's the Zeigarnik effect. You find it easier to remember things which aren't complete. So incomplete tasks, they play in your mind. You can't sleep at night. Maybe we need mental closure, and having mental closure, it's important to have mental closure to control stress. You know, stress kills a lot of people. Depression kills a lot of people. One form of depression is learned helplessness, where you believe that events are beyond your control. This was originally shown in a study using dogs. Dogs were electrocuted, but given the chance to jump over a small fence up to about their chest, and they didn't get depressed because they felt they could control the negative consequence. When dogs were electrocuted at random, regardless of what they did, they became depressed to the point where they just lay there and took the shocks. Even when they were physically picked up and put on the safe side of the cage where there were no electric shocks, they still didn't bother. So that's a form of depression. Depression's a big one. Depression is a big killer. Suicide kills more men in the UK between the age of 25 and 40 than anything else. Heart disease, cancer, nothing comes close. So very interesting book. Easy read. It's just each chapter is about an experiment and the results. There's stuff in here on out-of-body experiences where people float away. There's stuff on here on being psychic. There's stuff on here on the fact that fear causes the same physiological processes as sexual arousal. It's all good fun. I thoroughly recommend it. It's not a moving story or a novel that's going to change your life or make you cry or any of that. But it's a very good read with some great information. If you like understanding things, if it sounds interesting, go and read it. I mean, look, I got this from The Works for £5. It's probably less than a coffee in some of these stupid coffee shops nowadays. It's less than a pint. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. I'd recommend this book. Easy read, lots of interesting info. I love it. Go and read it. And leave any comments if you want to. Thank you. Bye.